truth is, the world is ruled by corruption and greed.
If you look at how many Kingsman movies have hit screens so far, it's actually pretty wild that we're talking about a fourth movie already. The franchise kicked off back in 2014, adapted from Mark Millar and Dave Gibbons' comics, which themselves were published under Marvel's Icon imprint in 2012. Those original comics introduced this stylish secret world of British spies, and it didn't take long for director Matthew Vaughn to bring it to life on the big screen. The first movie, Kingsman: The Secret Service, was a huge success because it mixed cheeky humor with slick, over-the-top action in a way that felt totally fresh compared to most gritty modern spy films. After that, Vaughn kept the ball rolling with The Golden Circle in 2017, which continued Eggsy's story alongside Harry Hart. But then, instead of going straight to the next chapter of Eggsy's journey, Vaughn decided to pivot and make The King's Man, a prequel set in World War I. That means if you're actually counting by release order, The Blue Blood will be the fourth Kingsman movie, not the third. Even though fans have been eager to see where Eggsy and Harry's story would go after The Golden Circle, it's been kind of stuck on the back burner. Vaughn recently confirmed that the script for what's essentially Kingsman 4 is coming along nicely, but it's still taking forever to actually get off the ground. So what's causing all these delays? Turns out it's mostly because the two guys at the heart of this whole thing, Vaughn and Egerton, are just insanely busy. In a pretty open chat with Collider, Vaughn admitted the next movie won't start filming this year like people hoped. Why? Because Taron's schedule is jam-packed. Vaughn explained it simply. That'll be the next year. Because Taron's bloody busy. He's doing another movie, the guy that did Blackbird. They're doing another big TV show, so I have to wait for his availability as well. That big TV show he's talking about is Firebug, where Egerton stars alongside Journey Smollett. It's about a detective and an arson investigator hunting down a pair of serial fire starters spread over 8 episodes. But that's not even close to all Taron's been doing while Kingsman 4 keeps getting pushed. Originally, the plan was to start filming way back in 2019. Then it got delayed to 2022, then again to 2025. In between all that, Egerton knocked out a ton of other work. He starred in Rocketman, voiced characters in Sing 2 and the Sandman podcast, took on a dark drama like Blackbird, and led Apple TV Plus's Tetris. So it's no wonder he couldn't exactly drop everything for a new Kingsman. Vaughn hasn't exactly been lounging around either. He managed to finish the King's Man prequel, which hit theaters in 2021. He also produced Rocketman and Tetris, so he and Egerton were still working together, just on different kinds of stories. On top of that, Vaughn tried to launch Argylle, a spy film set in the same universe, though that one didn't quite catch fire at the box office. Still, he's been constantly tinkering with scripts and ideas to keep this whole Kingsman universe alive. Meanwhile, it's not just Taron and Vaughn whose calendars matter. If The Blue Blood really is going to be the epic conclusion to Eggsy and Harry's story, they'll need Colin Firth back too, and he's been busy in his own right, popping up in everything from Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again to 1917, Mary Poppins Returns, and the HBO series The Staircase. Plus, he's tied to a new Sherlock Holmes project called Young Sherlock. So the real trick is finding a time when all these big names can actually sync up. Whenever it does finally start rolling, it sounds like Vaughn and Egerton want to make sure it's worth the wait. The plan is for Kingsman: The Blue Blood to serve as the true send-off for Eggsy and Harry's story. Vaughn hasn't spilled much about the plot, but he did tease it'll show Eggsy wrestling with his purpose and teaming up with Harry for one last big adventure. It's anyone's guess who else might be returning for the ride, but you can bet the film will keep the same playful tone, hard R rating, and jaw-dropping action that made the series stand out in the first place. If you think back, what really made the first Kingsman so great was how it eased audiences into its crazy world. It started fairly grounded. Eggsy was just a kid from a rough council estate, struggling with his sense of worth. Watching him get pulled into this elite aristocratic spy agency and slowly prove himself gave the movie a real heart. That's why, even when things got absurd, like heads exploding to pomp and circumstance, it all still felt oddly believable. The Golden Circle, though, it kinda lost the plot. Instead of gradually building to wildness, it jumped right back into the ridiculousness from the first frame. We went straight to seeing a guy shoved into a meat grinder and served up as a burger. With no slow ramp-up, it was harder to buy into the stakes, and the over-the-top antics just felt bloated. The sequel also sort of dropped Eggsy's personal growth. Sure, he had a subplot about struggling to commit to his girlfriend, but it was pretty thin and resolved too quickly to really hit home. That's why fans are hoping Kingsman 4 can swing back around to what made the original movie pop. Vaughn has hinted this next installment will dive back into questions about class, legacy, and prejudice, which is perfect, given it's called The Blue Blood. It sounds like there's a chance to explore more of Eggsy's place in this snobby institution, especially since he's still an outsider at heart. When Taron Egerton was asked about it by Radio Times, he made it clear he'd want this last movie to really focus on Eggsy, not just saving the world again. That's a good sign the franchise might have learned something from the Golden Circle's mistakes. Looking at the bigger picture, it's clear Vaughn sees this series as more than just a trilogy. He's still got plans for a sequel to The King's Man, even if it's unclear how far along that project is. Plus, with Argyle tying into the same universe, he's hinted at building an even larger Kingsman spy world. So, it's possible The Blue Blood won't be the last we see of bespoke suits and absurd gadgets, just maybe the last chapter for Eggsy and Harry. If everything lines up, Vaughn hopes to finally start filming next year, which probably means we won't see it in theaters until 2026. By then, it'll have been about 9 years since The Golden Circle. Who knows whether that same gap will exist in the story itself, but either way, it's going to be quite the wait for fans. Still, if they get this right, by recentering on Eggsy's internal struggles, dialing the tone back at first so the madness can build, and wrapping up his and Harry's bond in a satisfying way, it could be the perfect capstone to what's honestly become one of the quirkiest spy franchises out there. So while it might be frustrating watching the timeline stretch out, it's also reassuring to know Vaughn and Egerton want to make sure this final ride is something special. In the end, if Kingsman 4 remembers why audiences fell for Eggsy in the first place, it'll be worth every delay. And that's that for today's video. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next one. Your suggestions for future videos are always welcome in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay in the loop. And if you want, you can share your thoughts about this video in the comments.